Hello and welcome back to my channel. In this video, we'll be discussing tips for the removal and replacement of the spark plugs and coils on this 2024 Ram 2500 with the 6.4 liter engine. If you find my tips to be helpful, please like, subscribe, and comment. Now let's get started. This is a Ram Hemi 6.4 liter engine, and what we're looking at now is bank 2. I'm going to point out the coils 1, 2, 3, and 4 right there, and beneath each of those coils are 2 spark plugs, 2, 4, 6, 8. Moving to the other side, so this is bank 1. Here's coil location number 1. Coil location number 2, coil location number 3, and coil location number 4 all the way back there. If you need to get to this location right here, you're going to have to remove these 4 bolts. Okay? All right, so let's head back over to bank 2. So symptoms associated with faulty plugs and coils include a check engine light, misfiring, trouble starting, rough idle, poor fuel mileage, slow acceleration, and knocking. You'll also have a trouble code P1370. So you might ask yourself, what does these parts do? So the spark plugs ignite the fuel mixture, and the coil transforms the battery voltage to a much higher voltage for the spark plugs. The supply list includes 16 spark plugs. Now, the suggested replacement interval for these spark plugs are at 100,000 miles. Coils. The replacement interval for the coils are approximately 150,000 miles, depending on usage. We're going to need a ratchet, extensions with a knuckle that allows the extension to be manipulated in different angles. You're going to need a 10 millimeter and a 13 millimeter socket. You're going to need a 5/8 inch spark plug socket. You're going to need some dielectric grease, and also you may need some anti-seize. Please see other items in the description below. At this time, I'm going to go ahead and move forward with the removal and replacement of the coil and one of the spark plugs right here. I know some of you are going to say, oh, that's easy, you know, he picked the easiest one. And yes, I'm guilty. I'm using the easiest spark plug and coil location as the example. However, I am very confident that if you follow the same procedure at these other locations, you'll have the same result. As you get back towards the firewall, yes, it becomes more challenging, and that's where you'll have to have your shorter and long extensions and the knuckle to get back into those smaller areas. But this is very doable. You know, this job is pretty straightforward. It may be a little time consuming, but I really hope that many of you will push through it. These spark plugs from the dealer are about $30 each. At a minimum, just the parts for this job, you know, over $400. You're gonna tack on labor on top of that. So that's why I'm doing this video. I'm trying to help folks out there. You got a little time on your hand, you know, bring a friend over. You guys could easily tackle this yourself. I'm providing the information and some tips. And with a little help from a friend, you guys can easily knock this out. Take the money that you're saving from taking this into a service shop, and you guys go have a steak dinner. And with that, let's just go ahead and push forward with the removal and replacement of the coil and spark plug. Using my 10 millimeter socket, I'm going to loosen up these bolts right here. All right. So these bolts have a washer attached. And the washer will stay on the bolt. And I've already loosened them up for demonstration purposes. Okay. Now, I had a difficult time removing this electrical connector, and so what I recommend is that you just pull out the coil very slowly, like that, and then disconnect the electrical connector, because now you can see the tab that needs to be pushed in. Just like that. And there you have it. There's your coil. And I always like to inspect my coils as soon as I pull them out. And so let's just do a top to bottom inspection. And so we will always want to look at our electrical pins. There's 3 pins there. You notice in this area here, this should not be swollen. If you've ever seen an old lithium battery, how it looks like it's inflated, you don't want that. So if this is inflated or swollen, you must get rid of it, okay? Probably catch on fire. Moving down, these are your dust caps for each of the spark plug cylinders. Okay, these are in good shape, they're in place. Looking at these ends here, there's no cracks. Okay, coming around, light coat of dielectric grease right here, and that's exactly what you want to see. And you look down the barrel, you look at the springs or the pickup electrodes, and there's no corrosion. Okay, so this, in my mind, is a fully serviceable coil. So let's go ahead and work on removing the spark plug. Spark plug was already loose. Okay. Slowly pull it out. And there you have it. There's your spark plug. As you can see, this is a iridium tip spark plug, and you can see the electrodes here. I'm not going to go into great detail about this spark plug because there's a lot of spark plug videos, but as you can see that this spark plug is firing very cleanly. There's not a lot of soot. That porcelain is nice and white. That's exactly what you want to see. Another thing you want to think about when you're installing a spark plug is that there's dielectric grease on here, and you saw that there's dielectric grease on the tip here, okay? And you want that dielectric grease to be there because, one, if you rub it on there, it illuminates any cracks that may be on the spark plug, and if there's any cracks, you throw the spark plug away. Secondly, you want a little bit of dielectric grease on here so that you don't get any arcing between the spark plug and your coil, because even though these spark plugs are pretty expensive, the coil is more expensive, so you don't want this less expensive part to damage the more expensive part. That's one way to think about it. Okay, let's see, anything else I want to talk about with spark plugs? If you're not using a torque wrench, a rule of thumb I use for used spark plugs, you snug them down and you turn it about 1/8 of an inch, okay, because this is already compressed. Now, if you're installing a brand new spark plug, I would snug it down and turn it a little less than 1/4 of an inch. And I know that's not much difference, but the key point is be careful not to over tighten these spark plugs. That is the takeaway, okay? So at this time, let's go ahead and get this spark plug reinstalled. So go ahead right now, you can see on the screen that I have the recommended gap for this spark plug. Okay. And now you can take a look on the screen and you can see the recommended torque for these spark plugs. And I'm going to go ahead and torque down the spark plug right now. Okay. Let's go ahead and reinstall the coil. You just have to be snug. Looking at the gasket on the electrical connector to make sure it's not deformed. Click, and there you go. Well, folks, that wraps up this video on the removal and replacement of the spark plugs and coils on this 2024 Ram 2500 with the 6.4 liter engine. I hope you found my tips to be helpful. Please like and subscribe. Please send comments. And until next time, drive defensively.